So Dungeons and Dragons is changing forever, and a lot of gamers don't seem to like the changes. They're trying to turn it into a live service game with these seasonal releases. And again, this is Wizards of the Coast trying to mimic the Magic the Gathering strategy, but I would argue that Magic and D&D are two different audiences. Now, of course, you have some crossover between those two fandoms, but I think D&D is a different beast entirely, and they don't know what to do with it. I think from Hasbro's point of view, it's like, yeah, once people buy the books and they have all the books they want, then how do we make money off of them? It's not like Magic where you're constantly having to buy new sets, new decks, whatever. And even within the D&D group, usually only one or two people are buying the books. It's usually the Dungeon Master. I know because I was always the Dungeon Master and I always had to buy all the books, but so they're trying to figure out how to monetize each and every player, which is where D&D Beyond comes into it. And this whole kind of live service thing that they're going with. So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk about their new in-house live play, actual play series, D&D Dungeon Masters. And look, again, I'm not trying to put a target on any of these people, but it is kind of weird. They're obviously trying to compete with Critical Role. Now that Critical Role has their own system, it feels like there's a little bit of friction there. They don't have Matt Mercer and company in their back pocket anymore. And they want to, get those new players, those Gen Z players, I guess. Right. But, I'm looking at the numbers and they're really not that great. So we're looking at almost a day. It's been up for almost a day. It's at 55,000 views, which, I mean, I guess for a new series, that's fine, but it's not Critical Role numbers. And, it is on the official Dungeons and Dragons channel. So, I think Hasbro really has kind of a multitude of problems in trying to pivot D&D. They did get a new boss for D&D. I forget his name off the top of my head. Is it Ayub? I think is his last name. And he is reaching out to some of the old school creators from TSR, the TSR era, which is a good step. But I think most D&D players, I'm going to use air quotes here, I think most D&D players are actually playing other systems now, or they're playing with their old books. I think they've kind of given up on brand new D&D. That's just a feeling I'm getting. But we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what the future looks like now, because apparently they're going to let people or encourage people to produce their own third-party content again. So we got a lot of things to talk about. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, no woohoos in this video. Geeky's not here. She doesn't care. I actually asked her, I said, you want to sit in on the D&D video? And she's like, no, I literally don't care about your old man game. She does buy me old issues of Dragon Magazine. I've got a bunch here in my office, and she buys me stuff every once in a while that, she thinks I'd like in relation to old school D&D. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of where WotC has gone. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people checked out. A lot of people really not happy with the politics. And I did not realize again how bad things were until I tried to get my kids into playing tabletop. And yeah, it was not great, because I mentioned there were some other alternatives, and God, I had so many people jump down my throat over that, including the guy behind one of the OSRs I recommended, because it felt like old school D&D. He was trying to distance himself from us, which is so weird because we're not a very political channel. I mean, I call out the virtue signaling, and let's be honest, WotC has doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on that in recent years, catering to the Tumblr crowd and actively attacking even old school fans and old school creators. So I can't get on board with that. But yeah, other than that, we really don't get that political, but it doesn't take much. I mean, the tabletop scene is so weird now. It is so weird. But I do think in some way they are trying to do a little course correction. They did reach out to Luke Gygax. Unfortunately, Ernie is no longer with us. They, have reached out to some of the old TSR creators, old school TSR creators, which is good. But that could just be window dressing. I don't know. But let's talk about this, the live service era. So yeah, this, I mean, it's Hasbro's gonna Hasbro, right? This is good from Wargamer. D&D's live service era could be great, but only if it keeps the actual RPG alive. It's rad. We're getting an official Dungeons and Dragons actual play series, but it's the tabletop RPG itself that needs love right now. I would agree with this. I think that's what's going on here is D&D and Hasbro has said as much. They want D&D to be a lifestyle brand. They want to sell D&D backpacks and pumps and purses and literally dresses and like makeup and all this other crazy shit that would have been completely unthinkable 20 years ago, because they want it to be a lifestyle brand. They want Karens to rock a D&D plushy purse or something as they're drinking their D&D Starbucks, you know, but they've never actually rolled a D20. Yeah. So this is Alex Evans on Wargamer. He says, believe it or not, I'm kind of a cautious fan of Wizards of the Coast's new live service video game approach to D&D. And not just because after long months of excruciating, confusing inactivity in 2025, but literally any update to the D&D release schedule is like water in the desert. No, I think the whole shtick of seasons and roadmaps could make a lot of sense. The problem is that in order for it to make sense, those seasons need to be stuffed full of tasty new game to play. And right now, I feel like that's still too far down on WotC's priority list. Yeah, they want to be a brand. They want every player to, you know, I guess jack in, preference, jack into D&D Beyond. So they all have to pay. It's about maximum monetization, right? Because the guy in charge of Hasbro is a video game guy. Remember, he comes from Microsoft. So he said, to show my working on this, let's take a short trip down memory lane. In 2021, the year we launched Wargamer. Wargamer, is that new? Wizards published 5 new D&D books. Okay. We got another 5 books in 2022. 3 books in 2023. And then they had Baldur's Gate. Larian kicked a hole in D&D's barrier to entry, and new fans flooded in, finding a wealth of new material to play with. And that's who's actually doing this live play, actual play series on D&D. They have some of the voice actors from Baldur's Gate. I don't know if that matters to people. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. After January 2024's Book of Many Things, the flow of new source books stopped dead. Wizards has apparently has been consumed with making the new edition. Sad times, but when 5.5e finally arrived in awkward, staggered fashion between September of 24 and September of 2025, it was good. That's arguable. It's arguable, but whatever. Didn't sell very well. Ever since then, it's felt as though Dungeons and Dragons has been some kind of inscrutable, distinctly not bright holding pattern. Well, it doesn't help that you fired most of the people working on D&D, or they jumped ship to Critical Role. Yeah, that doesn't help. Throughout the last year, Wizards said not a word about what new books it was dreaming up for 2026, leaving folks to dwell on the fact that 5th edition luminaries Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford jumped ship for Daggerheart. Let's be fair, the WotC presses didn't stop that time between the arrival of 5.5e and today. We had 4 new D&D books. Okay. Now we're getting a taste of what they want to do. They're announcing 3 upcoming roadmap seasons, Horror, Magic, and Champions, and 3 books to go with them. To my knowledge, Wizards itself hasn't used the live service moniker to describe this new structure, but the community as a whole absolutely has. And in my view, the shoe fits. Yeah, it is basically Warcraft now, I guess, you know. So we'll see. So at the time, I saw a lot of folks online turn up their nose at this whole format and vibe, and I really didn't blame them. In the year of our Lord 2026, who hasn't been burned by a live service video game that promised the world curried fan buy-in with flashy roadmap graphics and then under-delivered and was quietly shut down? Yeah, I don't think they know what to do with D&D. I think they're kind of like, oh, we're going to do everything, guys. Here's, you know, some magic, some horror, some whatever. You want to be pansexual baristas? Yeah, we can do that too, right? So he said, do I, for one, welcome our new live service D&D overlords? Not quite, not yet, because in the last 2 years, I've seen the flame of community excitement burn very low compared to those halcyon days of 2023. The OGL debacle did a lot of damage to Dungeons and Dragons as a brand. And that was like right when they were coming out with the movie and all. I mean, people were like, hey, yeah, this is awesome. We've got a community. We're building our own stuff. We're selling our own books on Kickstarter. We're allowed to do that. It's pretty awesome. And then they're like, you know what? We need to maximize our profits. So you guys are going to have to pay a licensing fee now. I know we said that would never happen, but yeah, that burned a lot of goodwill. It really did. So I don't know. I mean, personally, I think most people have moved on. I mean, if you're clinging to official D&D after all this time, it's like, I don't know what to tell you, but people want to play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to go pick up a basic set or buy the player's handbook or whatever. And I get they're basically having to rebuild their entire fandom. That's what this feels like to me. They introduced new edition. They've got a leadership change at the top. They've introduced a new live play show of their own, not Critical Role, but this is one they own. And they've got some new. They have a new basic set out. I guess it looks like a card game, like a cozy game or something. It's a little weird, but whatever. I think they have to rebuild D&D from the ground up. I think they know that, because that's kind of where we're at with it. Good luck with that. I don't know. It's just, yeah. So this is coming from Polygon. This was a couple of weeks ago. D&D is becoming a live service game, but your table doesn't have to. The digital first future of D&D may not be thrilling, but remember, you can play however you want. And that has always been the case. And I think most people will play some variation of homebrew. I don't know of too many people that just straight up play D&D like right out of the box, unless they're new players. Like they buy the books. They might start with like a campaign set or a module or something like that, but then they kind of create their own characters, their own variations on the world. Like your Forgotten Realms is not going to look exactly like somebody else's Forgotten Realms. And then they just kind of go off in their own direction. Right. And I mean, that's a hard game to create new content for all the time, because technically if we're going to get Gygaxian, I guess, on it, you should be making your own stuff. You should be making your own stuff. You shouldn't rely on the corporation to give you ideas. Like the whole point of D&D, the box set, the basic sets and the books, it was to start your adventure, not to be the destination. So the fact that all these people are like, what am I going to do without new source books? I'm like, make shit up. I mean, there are people still playing first edition campaigns, from like decades ago. They're still playing those campaigns, those characters. I mean, come on. So this is Polygon. They said prominent figures who established the brand's success during the 5th edition era all left the company in recent years. After the 5th edition's major updates in 2024, D&D felt like it was struggling to chart a new course. Since Wizards of the Coast Senior VP for Digital Games, it's Dan Ayub, took the reins of D&D in July of 2025, he refocused on a community-first approach for the game, trying to mend some fences with disgruntled fans. I will give him props for that. I will give him props for reaching out to Luke Gygax. I will give him props for reaching out to, I think, Margaret Wise, Tracy Hickman, Ed Greenwood. There's been a few others I think he's reached out to. So I will give him all the props in the world for that. They said the involvement of famous creators and public figures who carry a lot of goodwill has been met with positivity. However, many fans and some prominent D&D content creators are also pointing out that the game seems to be shifting dangerously close to a subscription model focused on the digital side of the product, which would match his expertise. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think it's going to be, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And I think that we're basically going right back to where Hasbro wants to be, which is they want D&D to be a digital thing. And you've got Chris Cox out there, the CEO of Hasbro, saying that his own campaign is almost all AI generated, and he wants it to be like a digital thing. And they're going to make like digital modules, AI modules, and they're going to have an AI dungeon master and all this crazy stuff. And that's what they want for it. I could see him just turning it into a damn slot app or something like that. That would totally track, because he keeps talking about Monopoly Go, but I could totally see them doing something like that. Some of the fears may seem exaggerated, but there's at least some truth to them, especially when it concerns D&D Beyond. Yes, Wizards of the Coast has become more generous when it comes to accepting third-party content on its digital platform. And we'll talk about third-party content. The proliferation of AI-generated products on marketplaces such as DriveThru RPG and DM Guild has hurt small independent publishers who often see their offerings buried in a sea of AI slop. I did not know that they allowed AI stuff over there. Wizards is, in theory, offering a better alternative by making corporate AI slop, by bringing in many of these creators to D&D Beyond. That includes longtime D&D rivals Paizo and Chaosium, who now have D&D-ified versions of their games. However, the fact remains that purchasing digital products on D&D Beyond doesn't mean you own them in the traditional sense. What you're buying is a digital license to access them, which can be revoked at any time if the account is terminated, as clearly stated in the general terms. This applies to D&D official and third-party products. So I'm going to tell you, right, people were like, what's going on with Adventure Engine? We're still working on Adventure Engine, and we're not going to release it until it's show ready, right? We actually have taken a look at it, or I've taken a look at it over the last couple of years. And I'm like, originally we were going to do this like really huge expansive thing. And I'm like, no, we're going to pare this thing down, and we're going to give people an analog product. Like, we're not going to, I mean, we might have PDFs to download or stuff like that, but we're not going to, it's an analog product. We want to encourage people to actually sit down together and play the table, with paper, on a wooden table together, face to face. So that's, so we've kind of taken a look at the whole ecosystem right now. It's like, no, everybody's doing the digital thing. It's crazy. It's just like, yeah. And I don't think it's good. I think you should own what you purchase, right? It said this is a worrying prospect made worse by recent statements by Hasbro CEO Chris Cox, who said during the Q4 earnings call that D&D advanced our evolution to a digital first play and IP company. Along with his 2023 statement that the underlying thesis of our D&D business is all about digital, and his frequent endorsement of AI tools to support the gaming experience, and they'd like it to be Fortnite, basically. Yeah, so Dan Ayub's recent reassurance during a press conference at GaryCon 2026 that face-to-face physical play is always going to be part of D&D is not enough to calm your fears. Yeah, so saying face-to-face physical play is kind of like, well, you can still trade Pokemon in person. You just go get that link cable or whatever. I mean, they're not saying it won't be sidelined. They're not saying it won't be 10% of their ideal experience, because really, this is about making as much money off of each individual player as possible. That's what they want. And when you're a mega corp like Hasbro, just staying afloat is not an option. You need to have maximum revenue, and digital has way bigger margins than manufacturing product. So I don't know. But yeah, they said you don't have to rely on D&D Beyond. They say it can be a useful tool. It's not essential or even needed to enjoy the world's most famous RPG. That's true. I know a lot of people that are still playing with their old books. My personal favorite edition, and I know I get a lot of shit for it, is second edition. I love AD&D second edition. To me, that is quintessential D&D. And I know we get people that are older than me. They're like, you suck. I was playing back in the 70s. Well, okay, good for you. But I was introduced to D&D through the Red Box set through Beckme. And then in high school, it was second edition. And second edition was huge. It was huge. I mean, they advertised it like all the comics. It was all the bookstores. D&D was huge. And so, yeah, I mean, I always have a soft spot for it. And that is going to be probably my nostalgia goggles being put on. But yeah, there's really, I mean, if you want to play D&D, you don't need the new stuff. You don't need the new books. And they're saying the same thing. There are tons of alternatives out there. There are tons of derivatives, 3.5 license, like I mentioned some before. I'm not going to mention it by name. I don't want to put a target on anyone, but there are tons of alternatives out there. You don't need to pay a subscription to D&D Beyond, but they're going to try to push you in that direction because it's a corporation. They're going to do what a corporation's going to do and try to maximize profit. So this is, let's see, this just came out a couple of days ago. D&D is scaling up as a franchise, and that means going back to how 5e started. So now they're going to outsource D&D content again. I think what's going to happen eventually, and I know I keep saying this and people are like, you're like a broken record because you talk about with comics. I could totally see Hasbro just outsourcing the physical tabletop game. Reason being, they're already outsourcing toys to other companies. So why wouldn't they outsource the books, outsource the, spin-off games? They have a horror game. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but some different board games they've outsourced their D&D. And I could see them do that. Like our core product is going to be the D&D IP and the D&D Beyond. And, we'll license out the rights to make D&D source books And you guys can be responsible for printing those books. And you can spend your own money and take a chance printing those books. And then you can just pay us for the privilege of printing those books with the D&D logo on them. And I'm going to be honest, other companies might do a much better job with it. They might, because they might care more, right? So they're saying on Polygon, if you played D&D during the early years of 5th edition and took some time to look at the credits section for the adventure books, you may have noticed a weird detail. Some of these products were designed by publishers and studios outside of WotC, including 5e's first campaign supplement, Hoard of the Dragon Queen, designed by Kobold Press. Princes of the Apocalypse was designed by Sasquatch Game Studio. Out of the Abyss and Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide were designed by Green Ronin Publishing. They all have their own systems now. See what I'm saying? Like, they totally could just license out D&D and be like, you make the source books. This outsourcing practice was abandoned starting in 2016 when Wizards began designing all D&D products in-house, but it seems this may no longer be the case. A job post on LinkedIn spotted by Dungeons & Dragons fanatics shows that Wizards of the Coast is looking to recruit a TTRPG publishing lead for D&D, whose responsibilities include being the creative lead for externally developing D&D content, including adventures, campaign materials, guides, and artwork. Let's take a look at this. So I think they're going to outsource this shit. That's what I think they're going to do. All right, here's the job posting. Let me blow this up a little bit. TRPG publishing lead in Washington. We get health insurance. That's good. Required qualification. Let's see. What do you do? Serve as creative lead for externally developed content. Establish and communicate clear creative vision. Review and approve creative deliverables to ensure alignment with D&D lore, brand values, and player expectations. You're basically the brand manager for outsourcing. Participate in pitches and evaluations, act as creative liaison between external partners, gather, synthesize, and represent internal feedback, ensure external work integrates cleanly with internal roadmaps, lead end-to-end execution for multiple external projects, define scopes, milestones, review processes, and approval checkpoints, own planning, forecasting, and management of external content budgets, hold accountability for quality and timeliness of partner deliverables, identify risk gaps and quality issues, contribute to broader franchise discussions about content strategy, find opportunities where external development can expand capacity. Let's see. Required qualifications. Significant experience in creative leadership within games, publishing, entertainment, or transmedia storytelling, proven success working with external partners or vendors on premium creative content, strong understanding of narrative world building and visual storytelling, demonstrated ability to give clear, constructive, creative feedback. Well, I can do that. I can give clear, constructive, creative feedback. Experience collaborating cross-functionally with design, art, narrative, brand, and production teams. We're an equal opportunity employer. You get $132,000 to $227,000 a year. You're going to have to relocate, and you get health insurance and time off and work-life balance and volunteer and employee giving programs and other perks until we replace you with a robot. So yeah, it sounds to me like they are definitely outsourcing a lot of D&D now going forward. So that's interesting. Yeah, so Dungeons & Dragons is never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same as it was unless you play the old editions. I mean, it's a corporate product now, right? And I've kind of gotten over getting angry about it. I'm not really angry. I was just kind of shocked at like how weird everything had gotten with, the racism and things were, everything was offensive and the orcs were minorities and now they're wearing sombreros, and they had to audit the old material because it just wasn't diverse and inclusive enough. And the fandom was definitely Critical Role's fandom, and they came from Tumblr, and they had a very Tumblrific idea of how the world worked, and they were kind of leaning into that with some of their supplements. But it does look like they're going back to basics somewhat. I just think a lot of stuff's going to be outsourced, and then the rest of you are going to have to pay up for D&D Beyond. That's it. What are they going to do? Like, pay your subscription. They're going to lock your dice so you can't roll your dice anymore. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. There we go. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.